Welcome to the Warren Cycling Podcast. My name is Dean Warren. I'm in rainy Wiesbaden, Germany today.
Rainy Wiesbaden, or is that
Rainy,
is that like
very rainy,
east of
cold,
Wiesbaden?
rainy Wiesbaden. It's a spa town, but it's better to be indoors in the spa, especially today, than out in the rain, 50-degree weather.
Yeah. Well, I'm Randy Warren, and I'm in gorgeous Asheville, North Carolina. It's been in the 70s. It's supposed to hit 80 degrees this weekend. And I haven't ridden the bike yet this week. So it's nice to visit. But it was nice last week when I did the Hincapie Gran Fondo. It was a gorgeous day, not 80s for sure, but it's
excellent. Well, a week ago,
today,
a week ago today, I think I was here a week ago, and I rode to Frankfurt and back on a beautiful day. So just an anomaly, I hope, today. Well, actually, it's pretty normal to be raining this time of year. So That is the episode 336 of the Warren Cycling Podcast. We were both taking our break, off the bike break. Cyclists, road racers do in the fall, sometimes get a complete break. And this is the 25th of October. So it's almost been a month since we've talked. Hopefully you missed us and you're excited.
I've had people tell me that they did miss us. So at least a couple people.
That's nice to hear. But we're not going to try to catch up on a whole 4 weeks worth of cycling news, because then we would go probably 3 or 4 hours. I think that's a little bit of a excess amount that we could talk about. But looking right behind us here, on both screens, our backdrops are a reminder that today the Tour de France route for 2024 was announced. So we're already looking ahead to the premier event of cycling really each year is the Tour de France. And some leaks already that were confirmed in the route reveal today. Namely, I think the gravel section is what most managers are worried about. All the manager quotes are it doesn't belong in the Tour route, because they can see big hopes of a great Tour evaporate and ill-timed flat or crash on a gravel road.
Did you see what the gravel was like? It's like a Strade Bianche gravel, which is going to be in the Giro this year as well, but that's pretty benign, and they've had that in for years. Or is it going to be like gravel? It was interesting because my understanding when I went over to Europe to do the Gravel Worlds, everybody kept saying that European gravel is much different than American gravel. Gravel races there are mostly road with gravel sections, where here it's mostly gravel. And then gravel there is not usually as rough, I guess. Sometimes the gravel is here, although in unbound races like that, it's pretty not rough at all. But did they say then what the gravel, what it's going to be like in there? Or maybe right now that's what everybody's quickly searching out the maps to find out.
Not sure. We were just looking at some of the different stages. I saw the video that showed the route that the Tour de France put out, and you just see the yellow line, going through the different countrysides. You can kind of see the mountains in that, but you don't really know exactly how the route's going. We see already though on stage 4 that they're going to climb the Galibier, which is 23-kilometer climbs that early into the Tour. Is definitely have some separation. It finishes
even the first
downhill.
Day is going to be, first day is really hilly, so that week's going to be tough because you're not going to have. And I think that they decided too. Don't you think that it was safer this way? Because when they've done mass start, mass finish, sprint finishes, then so many people have a chance to get in the yellow jersey, and it seems like it's more dangerous. And if they separate it out towards the beginning. I just remember, hearing, I think it was this year, right, that the beginning was really hard, and people said it was way safer, way fewer crashes and stuff like that. So maybe they found that's a good formula to start out with to avoid all that tension in the first week with all the sprint stages and having crashes. Take out maybe a big favorite. Right, that's bad for the race.
Yeah, right. But starts in Italy, first time ever to start in Italy, which it's gone into Italy several times. And
many times. Yeah.
First day they go through that little country, San Marino, and then I think one of the last days they start out in Monaco. So it's four different countries, this tour.
Yeah. Yep.
But we're not going to go into big details. I was looking at because the Giro route was announced, I think, a little more than a week ago. And if you want to just quick comparison, the Giro's got more time trialing miles. And
then the Tour.
Yeah, then the Tour, and maybe not quite
flatter though.
Yeah, not quite as much climbing, not as many back-to-back-to-back tough stages, but the Giro is always trying to like maybe entice certain riders to come to the Tour, but the Tour next year is already starting to be like just phenomenal tour with three and a fourth really strong candidate for the overall, which this last year we really had two heads above riders with Pogačar and Vingegaard, but add in Primož Roglic riding for his new team Bora Hansgrohe, and then Remco Evenepoel making his first Tour debut should make it really at least a four rider race. But you never know what someone else could surprise us, but that's not expected right now.
But you never know. So Ineos has a couple of young guys who they're trying to.
Yeah, they re-signed Carlos Rodriguez, I think, for 4 years. And they just signed AJ August. Did you see that? AJ August? No. He's not even 18 yet. The American he won a stage at Redlands. He won a race maybe in Italy. It was a one-day, like a junior race. I mean, he's very promising. Good climber.
Good cyclocross racer, too.
Yeah, that's right. Very good cyclocross racer as well. So, yeah, that's kind of exciting to have, because Ineos hasn't done too much as far as signing riders. They lost they've lost a couple, right? But they did re-sign Carlos Rodriguez, and Geraint Thomas re-signed for 2 more years. So, the Giro with the extra time trialing miles, maybe
for Geraint, yeah. And then just the experience that Geraint has. I mean, he's world champion on the track. He's Tour de France winner on the road. Having him on the team to be able to guide the people that are coming up and putting in a position to be able to be competitive in a Grand Tour is invaluable. So I think that, it's a super important signing, even though he probably won't be a Tour contender next year. Like I said, maybe the Giro, because he certainly is a still good time trial.
He almost won this year, so.
It was so close, yeah.
Very close, yeah. Did you see the EF Education signed Rui Costa?
Yeah.
So they signed him on. He's, I think, going to be 37, but also more for having an experienced rider to help guide these young riders coming up. So.
Yeah, they got to be careful because he had a great year. He won.
He won a lot of races this year.
Yeah, but also too, I noticed watching him race some smaller races and stuff too that he was winning this year. He got a lot of chatter by the commentators saying that his style of racing isn't very popular amongst the other racers because he does as little work as possible. He does it like you're supposed to do it. Little work as possible, takes advantage of people as much as possible, and then beats you up at the end. And it worked. Like this year, I said, he's not like, I'm in 61. I play the old man card. I just met with a new athlete of mine who's 65, and I said, hey, that old man card, you can play that. You get into a group of young guys, and you say, hey, I'll take an easy pull, but I'm an old guy, so and so maybe Rui says that sometimes. Hey, I'm 36.
I think that's kind of style Chris Horner would really appreciate, because he's always calling all these other riders knuckleheads for wasting energy and doing moves that isn't going to bring anything. And so
Rui's probably Chris Horner's favorite rider, I'm guessing.
Actually, Victor Kempenarts is, I think, I'm not sure they were teammates, but he's always excited about his man Victor Kempenarts. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. It's super important to have that kind of experience in there, and it helps because like Ben Healy has been attacking from the gun pretty much and trying to go solo every time. So maybe someone like Rui Costa will help balance him out a little bit because and they signed another Irish rider too, I think.
Even Nielsen Paulus, who is a tremendous rider too, I feel he wastes energy when he's feeling good, when he could be sitting on and not expending that energy and getting even closer to those big finishes.
It'll be interesting to see how Nielsen advances over the next couple of years, because he made huge steps this year. Last 2 years, really, he made huge steps.
For sure, yeah.
And this year, I think he was in a position in which he was so much stronger that he felt like he could do all that work. And at the beginning of the year, he could do extra work and still finish really well. And then, as they got towards, he finished 6th in San Sebastian or something like that. You had a good finish. But
he and Matthias Skjelmose were battling each other, and he just got the best of him in that early stage race, I think. And but then look at Skjelmose. So by the end of the year, he seemed like he was at a higher level maybe than Nielsen.
Yeah, he was probably working himself into it, and Skjelmose certainly is really strong in multi-day races too. He was as the races were going longer and longer, he was still really strong at the end of Which Grand Tour did he do? He was still like putting up. I think he did the Tour, didn't he? For a little trek. So, yeah, and he was and I think at that point, because Nielsen had been in the polka dot jersey and tried to be in every break for so long, the third week of the Tour, right? He just didn't really have much left. Where Skilmos was being much more judicious with his energy and was able to, ride stronger towards the end of the race too. It's just different styles, different things too, and maybe you learn from each one of those too. But I'm excited to see what Nielsen does this next year, because he has now 2 really solid years of racing at the highest level. See what happens, the next year. So he could either stagnate or grow more yet. We'd hope grow more yet.
I hope so, and see what the move for. Matteo Jorgensen, I think, is close to Nielsen's level. He's a couple of years younger, but he's moving over to the yet to be
the Blanco
named team. The Blanco team, which they called after they lost. After Rabobank pulled out, and they were just a Blanco team. But that's how they registered the Jumbo Visma team. Now without Jumbo Visma still be a sponsor. They thought. See, Pawn. I think John. I just was visiting our good friend John Hickox in the Netherlands.
I saw he's back on the bike. Did you guys get to go for a ride or not?
We did not go for a ride. No.
Because he had a bad crash.
He did. It was just a little bit of inattention at the end of a ride in a small group, and there's some barriers in the road, and he was stretching his back out some because his back gets a little tight, and usually, everyone's always pointing out stuff, but I don't know if he was looking the other way or not, but he hit just a concrete barrier that would separate the bike lane from the road. So just a unfortunate crash, and he landed on his back and crushed his iPhone, but he thinks it saved him from hurting his ribs more.
It looked pretty bad. I saw he posted a picture of his ribs and lots of bruising and
But anyways, he was telling me about how Pawn, the company, is a big company. I think they own Cervelo now, but they own the Lisa bike, and they have a big interest. And so it was rumored just recently it was going to be Visma Lisa bike.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that's necessarily going to go through too. Yeah. Last time we did the podcast, we were just talking then about how it looked like they were going to be merging Jumbo Visma with
which we hoped they wouldn't. So
we were like, wow, it's crazy. How can that happen? And it looks so certain too at that point with all the talks, and then it fizzled out, and then Roglic, of course, though, left, and that sorted out some. But Evenepoel, staying with sort of all that news. So, but anyway, circle back a little bit to the tour announcement. We're probably won't go that much in depth right now about. I mean, you can speculate all you want, but looking at the route, they say it's going to be tough. They say the same things all the time. Gravel section this year, a couple of years ago is cobble, and it's going to be some high finishes, some stages where possible wind and the messy. But I guess historically, though, it's first time starting in Italy, so that's different. First time not finishing in the Paris area ever. It always finished since 1903 when it started, but then it was 1973 when the Champs-Élysées came in as a finishing part. But because of the Olympics, and basically because they don't have enough police force to at least spread too thin, and so they're going to finish in Nice. And Lanterne Rouge is another podcast I look at sometimes, but they do a lengthy podcast, but very in depth. Very in depth. I was looking for the Giro news or information, and they have a Giro podcast where they go through every stage and give their opinions. And I think they were saying too, it's a little more difficult maybe to predict how it's going to work out, because you don't have an idea as much who will go to the Giro as the Tour. You pretty much know it's Vingegaard, Pogačar, Roglic. Of course, that's big reason.
Yeah. The only way he's not going is if he's got a broken leg or something.
And then Evenepoel's been planning to go as well, so that's a little more certain. So maybe if you want to get a real in-depth look at the stages already 7 months or how many months before the Tour, I know I forget.
I think we're almost 9 months for the Tour.
Hopefully, if the racing's just half as exciting next year as it was this year, which I imagine is going to be at a high level, because the classics were great. I mean, you can say maybe it was boring that one team won all 3 Grand Tours, but it was historic in a way, and especially with the Vuelta. I mean, as an American fan, Sepp Kuss winning a Grand Tour, now his mindset's changing a little bit to perhaps be, well, almost mentioned as a co-leader or a second option at the Tour even. And he's excited to go back to the Vuelta with the number 1 on his back, and he's saying how he doesn't want to change his personality too much, but to be a leader and to do, win a Grand Tour, you have to be a little cutthroat sometimes, and so
a little more selfish, maybe.
Yeah. So
and you see, so it's interesting because when someone wins a cycling crazed country, has someone from their country win a Grand Tour, they have this huge ceremony plaza experience where there's like thousands of fans.
I'm thinking of Egan Bernal in Colombia.
Yeah, right. It was huge. Yeah.
Before I forget, did he crash? I saw something. He crashed again.
Oh, I didn't see.
It could be career-ending. Did you see?
I didn't see. No.
I have to look up that. Okay, yeah.
Vindigo, though, even in
Denmark,
so, yeah, Denmark. But then so Sepp Kuss goes, and they had they did thousands. I heard over 1,000 at least.
Yeah, it's a small town.
A bike parade, though. Yeah, it's a very small town. Yeah.
Durango, Colorado.
Colorado, yeah, and it's not close to anything else. It's in the southwest corner of Colorado.
Yeah.
It's, probably like a 3.5 hour drive, I think, from Colorado Springs. So it's not nothing. Although if I lived in Colorado Springs or Denver, and I would have driven down to to be in that parade with them and stuff too. So it was just more American for sure. And I'm sure if you would have been, in a bigger city, perhaps maybe they would have in Denver, for example. It's pretty cycling aware and stuff too. So, but it was nice though. Nice that they had a thing for him, and I think he's been riding his mountain bike too, and it just seemed like he's having fun, but getting some adulation that he should get. I don't think Chris Horner had a huge when he won the Volta. I don't think they had a big parade for him or anything. So.
Yeah, because I think he's in Bend, Oregon now, but he lived in San Diego a long time. So
yeah,
it's not like Sepp went through the ranks of his beginnings of cycling in Durango. So he's got a real more connection, I think, to that city, and it's a great cycling town, great Colorado Mesa.
Yeah, but Durango Devo is one of the biggest development teams too in the country. So.
And isn't
Fort Lewis College is there.
Yeah. Colby Simmons, aren't they from Durango as well? Yeah, we always bring up questions that we think we should know that we can't quite remember.
I feel like they're from like Wyoming or something, but maybe not. So.
No, you think of because of Cody, Wyoming. That's what Colby Simmons. It sounds like Cody, Wyoming, a city in Wyoming. No, this should be not too hard to look up, right? You got. I should bring 2 computers really, one to look up more.
That's true. Quinn Simmons from Durango. You're right.
Yeah.
From Durango.
Okay.
Good job. Good memory. And he's current national champion too.
Yes. Little Trek, but it's just not into their jerseys. I don't know how much it'll change, but I'm glad Lidl wants to sponsor, and they added some firepower to their roster.
They have, yeah. I was trying to think because a Grand Tour contender too, and I can't remember who it was.
For sure. Well, we got to cover a lot of ground, but let's go back because we missed some podcasts, but we were together actually for 2 days in Italy at the Gravel World Championships. So we talked about cycling then, but we just didn't record it to have you be able to listen. But the Gravel World Championships, UCI Gravel World Championships, not the one that's in Nebraska, right, in the U.S., which John Borselman won. And
which shows more of that used to be. I think the Gravel World Championships in Nebraska used to be more prestigious than it is now. So
yeah. Well, so yeah, UCI. I mean, last year the route was to be desired and
a road bike route.
Yeah, but this year, but still
not a road bike route.
No. Yeah, I mean, you rode the course. You're very familiar with it. I don't know how many gravel races have you done? Because they were comparing it a little bit to like Belgian Waffle, San Diego on steroids a little bit, but I don't know if that is a fair enough. Maybe it's close enough that they could
only Belgian Waffle ride races I've done have been here in Asheville area, and they've had 2 different iterations. The first one was not very extreme. The second one was pretty darn extreme, more so than this one. I mean, there was single track hike a bike in the Belgian Waffle ride that we did here. There was no single track hike a bike in the Worlds, but there were 8 or 9 very steep climbs. So
but most paved, right? Most of the steep climbs were paved.
Most of them had at least, yeah. Some were completely paved, like the Poggio, the one we met on in the second day. That was completely paved. Many of them had paved and dirt segments on them, and some of the dirt segments were very steep and loose, but you can still ride them, on ideal circumstances.
And they're roads; they weren't like the single track or the narrow.
Right. Yeah. There was some double track and some single track descending off the end at the very end, and a little single.
Yeah,
almost
that cobbled descent though looked gnarly. It was close to the finish.
Yeah, it was actually the entrance and the exit were almost worse because there were steps kind of, and then there was cobbled with it was set up for water drainage, I think, and so it had very 90-degree walls on either side. It was probably only 5
Not
feet
much
wide.
Space at all. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 or 6 feet wide. So yeah, it was a little, and then the entrance and the exit were tough. So yeah, I mean, it was just riding through the cobbles themselves wasn't that bad, but the entrance and exit were hard. And the exit too, like when you came off of it, it was, especially in pre-riding, an open road, and it was a paved road.
Could be cars coming,
yeah, and you're flying down, with a good amount of control, but not 100% control like you'd be on a paved road. But some of even the paved descents were so steep that I was braking hard enough that when I stopped braking, the brakes took a little while to go back to normal operation. Like they were clunk, 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 clunk a little bit. So I'm not sure exactly what's happening there. Is something happening to the pads or something or what? But yeah, they were that steep though that I mean, it was in the 20% range, for climbs and descents. Some for sure like 25%. It was crazy steep up and down. And again, on a road bike, it would have been even crazier because all the gearing's different. But on I have a 42, and that was adequate for sure. But I'm sure people were riding that doubles, maybe even a smaller gear than that.
Well, the elite men's race, won by Mateo Mohoric. I mean, the top 4 riders were all road riders.
Yeah, I think 8 of the top 9 were road riders.
Yeah, Keegan Swenson.
Yeah,
super solid. Great. The U.S. Lifetime Series champion and gravel national champion. Got outsprinted by Alejandro Valverde.
Yeah.
With Valverde, I think, he's retired road guy. I mean, he's super strong still, but.
Yeah. I don't know how much. Saw Greg Van Amerat won off a gravel triathlon, 2 weeks after he retired. I think Valverde is still riding a lot. So.
Oh yeah, I think it's hard to it gets into you, and you don't want to just give it up.
Yeah.
Usually, if you really love it. So.
I mean, he retired at what, 41?
Yeah, he he didn't ride as long as Davide Rebellion.
Yeah, 52 or something.
Yeah,
right?
And unfortunately, sad what happened to him after he retired. So.
Yeah. But still, yeah, he looks obviously super fit. You couldn't have gotten 4th place at that race. This was not like last year. It was very, very tactical, and it wasn't, like I said, a lot of people were riding road bikes. This year was not like that. It was very, very hard race.
It was very difficult, I think, at the beginning with the positioning and some crashes. I think Keegan Swenson got put. I don't know, did he have a mechanical or a crash or combination that had to make up some ground to get to where he was in a chasing mode. I mean, Wout van Aert, he was flying coming into it, big favorite, and he had all kinds of trouble with crash and a flat. But we saw him on that Poggio climb, which is what about 50K into the race, and then we were there watching close to the finish, and we couldn't believe it that he was coming in 8th after how far behind.
We saw him. He was like
behind.
36 or something like that, I think, and before that he was even 50 or 70 or something like that. It was because he had those issues in the very first part where it was all still bunched together. So that's when you end up 70th, 100th, whatever, because it's everybody passes you. They're all together pretty much. So yeah, it was amazing that he was able to get up to 8th place. I mean, he had to be passing people the whole time.
John said on Strava he rode the fastest race. on Strava from that time. So I can believe it.
For sure. Yeah.
So no mechanical or crash issues. He might not have been interesting at all. He might have been
just rode away.
Yeah. So
you never know, because maybe Mahork had more in him too. He could have gone with someone else, or you never know. And maybe tactics would have came in play. But
even I'd say crashed almost at the end though. He slid out in that little bridge.
He did crash, yeah, but didn't.
And then hay bale.
Yeah. And it was interesting too, because in the pre-ride, the course had it marked to go down where the bridge entrance actually came off the pavement, and that was the designated course. But they didn't rope it off that way. They roped it off that if you wanted to take a risk going up under those wood chips, you could. And the curve was very shallow there. It was easy to jump up. So I rode it one time the way you're supposed to ride it. It was fine. I rode it one time the way Mahork did, and again it was fine. But I wasn't racing for the win of the pro race either too. So I think he was just came in a little hotter than he had to. But fortunately, right, his bike went down in the wood chips and his chest hit the hay bale. So, and it did fall on the drive side. So I think immediately the announcers were worried that maybe he could have prevented a trailer hanger or something. And at that point, it was so close to us. We were sitting at the 1K to go mark, and I had some data on my phone each day. So I was watching the finish, so we knew that when they were coming. But of course, it was delayed a little bit too, so we were caught a little bit off guard right when he finally showed up. But at least we knew what was going on.
For sure, yeah. No, on the women, Cassie Neal got a big win for her. She followed up this past weekend wearing the rainbow stripes in Arkansas.
In Big Sugar,
at Big Sugar, winning by I think 9 minutes there. And
I heard that. I heard the race. I've never done that one, but I heard there's a ton of single track in it. So if you get a gap, it's hard for people to chase you. So.
Yeah. Well, I think Gravel Worlds was pretty successful. I think overall, I think it's gaining momentum. Riders enjoying that extra discipline, and Mahork was, and Uedoma both excited to win rainbow stripes.
Yeah, everybody's treating it. So. They're treating it as legit. It wasn't like, oh, this is no one does this discipline. I won, but yeah, no big deal. No, they were all like, Uedoma especially, because she's been at that high level, especially this last year. She raced great, but didn't get a big win. And so I think it's been 3 years since she's had a
that's right,
a win at that level. So yeah, and even like age group stuff. So the fields were bigger than normal, but last year I think there were 11 guys in my age group, 60, 65, 4, and then this year we had 46 or 47, and there was all sorts of logistical challenges beforehand. So changed the city and all this kind of stuff too. The dates didn't change, fortunately. So it made it not easy for someone to come to, and yet we were still 4 times as many people there. And my guess is that next year, when it's in Belgium,
next year,
it'll be 150 people in my age group. So I think it's gonna explode, because it's just cycling in general is huge in Belgium, and gravel, my understanding, is really big. I'm interested to know the course, because they have all those small bergs and stuff too. So maybe it'll still be. I would hate to have it go back to being really flat. It might be technical,
more road oriented.
Yeah. And then the year after that, it's in France too. So it's and then the year after that, I think it's in Australia. So that'll be another challenge, having it be so far away. But when it stays, in that same Belgian, I think probably northern France area. I'm not sure if it's northern France, but it'll be huge.
So it's kind of like a accelerated. What happened with mountain biking that began in the United States, and the U.S. riders were really strong and dominant in that discipline in the 80s and into the 90s, had some of the top stars, and then it became more Eurocentric and more European race. So, but yeah, the U.S. Had a chance to have the Gravel Worlds already, did the UCI Worlds, and they didn't want it. Is that?
That's my understanding. Yeah. Yep. My understanding is I'm not sure logistics. I just heard people talking about it, that we had the opportunity and we turned it down. So,
but maybe if it grows in Europe, which will probably grow faster in Europe because it's more accessible to a more cycling crazed, oriented places, that then to have it in the U.S. might be even better later, because then you already have a bigger following and maybe
we'll get more people coming over. Right. If we would have had the first one here, like I said, in Italy, it wasn't that well attended last year. It would have been probably because sometimes we run in this with Masters Worlds too. Like the Masters Track Worlds were in LA again recently, and this year it wasn't, but last year I think it was. and they almost had to cancel it because they didn't have enough entrants. And so then
it was more like a national championships too, then, wasn't it?
They put a call out saying, hey, we need more people to enter, so more from the U.S. entered, and so it ended up being 90% Americans and 10% in some age groups, other people too. So it ends up being like a second nationals for people instead of a true world. Although my guess is that when it's Australia, you don't have as many countries as either too. But when it's in Manchester or England, I think it's going to be in France or something, I think pretty soon too. Then you get more European countries for sure, but then less Americans. It's always going to be that way for something like that too. But it does tend to be very heavily, in America, it'd be Americans. And the same thing I did cyclocross World Championships in Louisville, and it was probably 85% Americans then too, so it's just going to be that way more. But we don't want it to be that way for sure at the elite level, because they have resources to be able to travel, and you want to see the best. So even last year, right, at Fayetteville in the cyclocross world, right, it was Peacock riding away. Was it last year or before? Last year, right? No, year before last year.
Year before, because last year it was Matteo.
Yeah.
And battle to the line.
Yeah. So, but even then it was, it didn't Matteo it didn't come to Fayetteville, and they're both doing more road stuff too.
Right.
So
it's a bigger challenge. It's a big challenge to come to the U.S. from Europe, I think.
Yeah. And to combine those disciplines. So Pidcock already said too, he's gonna, a major goal is Olympic gold in the mountain bike race. And the major goal
he's going to do the Tour de France.
For Ineos too. So that's another one of the riders. Although he's not committed to being a GC rider there. So, he's young though. You can do that kind of stuff. And the mountain bike race is the second week of the Olympics, not the first week of the Olympics like the road race is. So he has a little bit more time in between the Tour and the mountain bike race.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating though that this past year that the not the Olympics, but the Tour de France was followed pretty quickly by the World Championship road race cycling, and then this coming year in 2024 we'll have the Tour de France and then the Olympic road race. So a big one-day road race, really big one-day road race, following pretty closely after the Tour de France.
And it used to be that way. It used to be that the road race was not like San Sebastian weekend the week after, but the week after that. So it used to be pretty close. And so oftentimes if you came out of the Tour really strongly, when Le Mans won in '89, he won the Tour de France, then he won beating Sean Kelly in a sprint, which and Dmitry Konashev and Laurent Fignon, I think, were all in that sprint. But anyway, he
normally Sean Kelly would beat him 9 out of 10 times in a sprint.
Sean Kelly said he didn't have a big enough gear. He had like a 12 or 13 for his biggest gear, and Le Mans had a 1 gear bigger. And so he blames it on that for sure. And I've heard him say he rues that chance because he never won the World Championships. And Le Mans won a couple times as a junior once, and then twice as an elite. But they came out of the Tour though. In that, so those were all the Tour powerhouses. Still racing well right afterwards. And that's what we saw then, kind of again last year, and then the Olympics likely as well.
So I asked John this question the other day when I was visiting with him. It was such an exciting racing year. Which one-day race he thought was the most exciting or his favorite one to recall from the year? And so, I mean, we were going through like Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. You
kind of have to really go over them again because it's easy to lose track of what happened when, right?
And but he thinks the World Championship road race was like the best race when it came down to really four of the top one-day racers. I mean, including one that's a Grand Tour racer, Pogačar, Mathieu van der Poel, Wout van Aert, and then Mads Pedersen, all battling it out towards the end. It was a really exciting race. He thinks that was maybe his favorite one. I kind of agree. I like the Flanders race, but I'm so fortunate because I got to be at both of those races. Two of the more exciting races. Paris-Roubaix might have been more exciting at the end if Wout hadn't flatted, because that was setting up to be a really great finish.
The women's Paris-Roubaix was one of my favorite races. So that was
Elson Jackson,
but she was because the brake was off, and they had to catch it, and she did so much work to catch the brake that we thought there's no way
she did so much work to keep the brake out. Right.
and then she's able to win the sprint anyway. So it's like she did the most work and still won, and she was not expected, too. Right. So I think that was one of my favorite races for sure.
Yeah, I have to agree. Very, very good racing. Well, and then I mean, for Grand Tours, it has to be Sepp Kuss winning because he's American.
It was not the most exciting race in terms of but there was a lot of drama amongst Visma for sure. Yeah, but it was certainly the one we enjoyed, I think, maybe the most because it's been so long since we've had an American win, and it's such a rare thing too. So, and we always hope. I mean, so the Lance Armstrong experience had so many negatives with it, but definitely was a huge positive in terms of capturing the imagination of the nation towards cycling, and so many more people rode bikes, and even now. And I know that even sometimes it's fading now just because I listen a lot to what people are saying. Like I was just at the Hincapie Gran Fondo, 3,000 person event. Lance was not there. Someone asked me too, actually, has Lance ever been to it? And I'm pretty sure he has. I don't think he's been there since I've been there.
But Mark Cavendish has been there, right?
Yeah, I rode with Mark Cavendish then. One of his down years, he was riding still for the South African team.
Quebeca,
yeah, and he was having some of that down year time where he was battling Epstein-Barr and stuff like that too. But yeah, he was on my wheel for a while. And Bradley Wiggins was supposed to be there that year too, but I never saw Bradley. This year, I saw George a couple times. It was nice. He recognized me too. I don't know George very well. I mean, I've ridden with him extensively sometimes, but usually in a group and stuff too. But he was really nice to me when he saw me and recognized me. So, but I didn't see Brent Bookwalter, who was there, or Bobby Julich, or Christian Vandevelde, who was a friend of mine too, and Chloe Duggar was there too. And so, those are the main stars who were there. I'll see Brent hopefully this weekend. I think he's going to join a ride we're doing this weekend. But
no Bookwater binge, right?
No.
They used to come quickly after the Hincapie, right? Usually consecutive weekends, were they before?
Yep, used to be consecutive weekends, and then it switched to a pop-up during COVID, and it was in December, and then they had a hot binge pop-up ride in July 2 years ago, I guess it was, and then with Brent retiring, it was kind of hard, and they had another child, so a baby now too, and stuff. So yeah. So yeah, but we're just doing a local ride this Saturday in a really super nice area that not that many people ride in, so it's super fun. So he said he might come ride with us there. But anyway, so I hear people talking all the time about Lance in these situations too and stuff too. And of course, when I first moved to Asheville, I was a little cautious about being with George because it was still fairly fresh that people were like, how well is George being received, and stuff like that too. And Christian always seemed like he fared better in that, than that. But certainly around here now, no one thinks anything of it, and it's just, George
water under the bridge now. Huh?
Yeah, and Christian and Bobby, and no one condones saying it was good. No one says that, but they just letting it go, But I also hear that about Lance too. So his podcast is getting more. It's hugely popular.
But they just had Jan Ullrich. I'm kind of fast. I mean, I've listened to a little bit of it, and I like George still the way he talks. Because George talks like he's almost not done 17 like. That is like awesome of a rider that he was. He talks more in awe that he can't believe that he did that before. And I wonder what's going to happen when Enzo. I mean, was Enzo there at the? He must have been there, right?
No, I don't know if he was or not. So Rich Hincapie's daughter was there, which is interesting, and she rode it. And she's not much of a cyclist, I think. An EF kid did win the juniors. Wasn't Enzo. I'd be surprised if Enzo didn't do it. I remember when Enzo, 5 years ago, and he did it, and he finished with George and stuff too, and he was like, 11, 10. How old is he now? He's like 16 or something maybe this year.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's a serious rider now. He's really good. But yeah, I didn't look at the results to see if he's there. They didn't talk about him being there. They did talk a lot about Rich's daughter. They interviewed her a couple times. So I think she's not normally a big cyclist, so it was interesting she rode. And Rich, George's brother, who runs the Hincapie Corporation mostly. I mean, George and Rich do it together, but I think Rich is much more the workhorse. He's not. He was a cyclist, and he is a cyclist, but he's not George's build or physique or too. So it's not, when they're in the family, when they're the gifted cyclist, athletic person was definitely George, not Rich, but he's a super nice guy and does a ton for cycling. So it's nice to have him there too. But yeah, Enzo for sure. A bright star for sure. I think, like I said, I think he's only 16 this year though. So he's got quite a few years yet to still develop.
Sure, but I might, I don't know. I would be interested to listen to see what they talked to with Jan Rolwerk though, Lance and
So I
Jan
heard
Rolwerk.
I heard they did a camp or something together with Jan because again they're talking about that. So I wrote
But
with the guy.
I mean, he's gone through so many different difficult situations, personal life. I mean,
Yeah.
to see him back though, I think now we're dragging in our memories again. Wasn't it there an article, a book, something about how cycling brought him back out of the difficult situations that kind of gave him, I mean, being able to ride his bike, it took on a different meaning. And
yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I certainly could see that because he had psychological issues and substance abuse issues and of course weight issues and relationship issues. You're right, he had so many trials and tribulations. He crashed up his expensive Porsches and whatever else he had, and yeah, so having some kind of grounding that something you're good at, something you can get back on and feel like you're at home and stuff. I can definitely see how that'd be a huge thing for him too. But I want to get a shout out to Paul too from Traverse City, who's a regular listener, and I rode with him at the Hincapie Grand Fondo this weekend as well. And he said when we were riding together, he goes, "Oh, that's Randy," and I go, he goes, "Yeah, I listened to the podcast." And so he was excited. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry we haven't done one for a while." And he goes, "You've been racing." I guess he follows me on Strava, so he's been seeing I've been traveling a lot too. So, but it's nice. It's always nice when we see when I get to meet people that listen to the podcast and enjoy it. And he said too he enjoys our interviews with Alexi. So we need to get Alexi again. And he'll see Alexi soon because we just saw Alexi at the Gravel World Championships. Then Paul will see him at Iceman because Alexi does that every year. And I think he's on his calendar again this year too. And Paul will do that. Paul's a strong rider too, really strong. I bet he does pretty well age group wise at Iceman. But yeah, that was exciting. And then I'm also riding with someone this week, tomorrow, I think too, who's a podcast listener too. So, it's great to have a chance to be out.
Right. So I guess we should keep doing it, huh?
We definitely should keep doing it. Yeah. Yeah. So Ryan is the guy I'm riding with tomorrow, and he's a podcast listener too. So, definitely. I think it's worth it for sure. So you're right. Sometimes we both wonder. We're like,
one person that appreciates it. Then.
Well, George Christensen, my friend too, who travels all over the place and is in Maine, I think now or something, which has got to be chilly up there. He was saying, "Hey, it's been almost a month since you've done a podcast." He goes, and he said, "I hope you don't wait long till you have another one, or you get one in before October is over." So George, we are getting this one in before October.
That's right. So. And we are on YouTube now, and I think we should be on Spotify, but I tried to find us on Spotify and I couldn't find it. So I have to do something more to make sure, because I don't know if people are continuing to traditionally listen through. I mean, the Apple stores were at the beginning where there's a lot of podcasts but we're connected to a bunch of different ones, but I don't really know.
I don't know how it works.
But the YouTube.
I just do a search every time for Warren Cycling Podcast and it comes up. So yeah. So if you search out Warren Cycling Podcast, of course everybody who's listening now and obviously knows how to find it. So.
Right. Well,
we had cyclocross too. We need to mention because we had a world
in the U.S.
A World Cup, in the U.S.
Waterloo.
And it was a historic win on the men's side.
Yeah, Thibaut Nice, son of legend Sven Nice, got his first World Cup win. Yeah. Being Eli Isabert, who I think he did have a little bit of mechanical issues. Isabert, and he's won he just won a super prestige race recently. He always starts out pretty hot at the beginning of the year, and
he's usually leading the World Cup the first few. But Sven Nice still works for Trek. I mean, he does. I'm not sure what the capacity, but so being the Waterloo race is on the Trek factory facility and stuff like that too, and so it's even called Trek Cup sometimes, I think too. So there's that big connection there too. So that probably made it even more special because Sven's there, it's part of what he does for his work and living still too, and his son's there, who's been a great in the junior and U23 ranks, and
a great road racer too. He races for Legal Trek right on the road,
and so to get which makes sense again, Legal Trek is on the team. So, but to get a win like that, I mean, it has to be super proud dad moment. I think I saw a post on Facebook where he was super happy about it too. So which makes sense.
And then Fem Van Empel and Puck Petersy were always battling each other, but it looks like Fem is coming out
she's been
blazing.
Yes.
So
yeah, so I had the world champions showing off the world championship, jersey here in the United States and racing, a lot too. She's crushing it too. I saw friends that had traveled from North Carolina up there. They had daughters and they're all having pictures with them and fucking stuff too. So it was nice. It was great because it was for them. It was like, here's these European heroes that they would never have a chance to see normally because they're not going to be over in Europe watching cyclocross. But to go even, probably the 11-hour, 10-hour trip from here to Wisconsin was, rewarded with an experience where they got to see the best in the world and get their pictures taken and stuff too. So it's huge, I think, to have the World Cup in America still, and I wish we had more again. But to have, the stars coming over too and that too, it's great for cycling in America.
Right, for sure. And the U.S. scene has been going pretty hot the last several weekends. And, they've raced just recently. I think they had Indianapolis, I saw. They had Louisville maybe before. But King's Cross just this past weekend, and Curtis White, the national champion, won both days on the weekend. And Clara Hunsinger won on Saturday, and the Canadian Isabella Holmgren won the second day. So
yeah, and Clara's racing again now on the team she came up on, I think, if I remember reading right. So she's not on a European-based team. She's, a little bit ups and downs. She's a super good racer, obviously, too, but she's back on the team that she started riding for years ago, and just to say that she's really enjoying it more. So she was on EF Education First for Tipco's SVB for her road team. That contract is up this year, and that team's dissolving, so she's not doing that anymore. But her cyclocross team is like, from her Oregon team. She's actually, it's funny, she's from Ashland, Oregon, which is famous for a Shakespeare festival in Ashland, Oregon. But and so she's racing for this team that she started with years ago, and seems like she's trying to hopefully rediscover some of just the pure fun of racing cyclocross and maybe a little less pressure than she's felt otherwise. So
sure. Well, I think once we get later into November and December, of course, December, I think around the 12th is 10th, 12th is the U.S. National Championships, but in Europe it really gets going big, and then maybe by Christmas time you'll see Matteo van der Poel and Wout van Aert entering some of the races and dashing the hopes of the ones that are racing all year long after competing. But of course, everyone likes to compete with the best, even if it's harder. They like to go up and race against the top talent. I don't know what kind of a schedule. We haven't seen what schedule they'll have, but I would say this past year, Van der Poel had probably overall a better year than Wout van Aert on the road.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, Van der Poel definitely. We're finding, I think, that they race differently. Van der Poel's up and down for sure. He's not trying to be the best all the time. And I think Wout's trying to be the best at every race. And so that racing style tends to make it a little bit less higher peaks. So his higher peaks didn't get him as many wins this year. Lots of second, third places. Really good racing, obviously, super good guy, but not quite the peaks. And then Matteo took more of the approach this year. He doesn't want to try and be good at everything anymore as much. He'll just try and peak a little bit more and then hit some more higher peaks. So I think consistent-wise, the whole season, Wout probably technically had a better year. But in terms of like big successes, I think you're right, Matteo.
No, Matteo van der Poel has still nagging back or knee. He has had some health issues too. He probably has to be a little more attentive to as well.
Yeah, I did think I see him saying something about still wanting to do some questioning whether he's going to do the Olympic mountain bike race or not too. But
yeah,
so
but we mentioned about Wout van Aert probably was the fastest rider at Gravel Worlds. I didn't say anything about how impressive I am though with his attitude to that race too, where he did get so far behind and still pressed on, and still even at the finish was just not like ruining what didn't happen. Right. That he always has it seems comes across as just a positive attitude, and I think that speaks a lot for a rider to just be able to hold himself in a way to be, I don't know, just seems like he's enjoying it and he accepts the bad things that come along because good things too. I mean, like you said, a lot of second places, but he's still out there, and he's a guy that I admire, I guess, for that kind of racing.
Oh yeah, well the European Road Championships when Christophe Laporte won, and he Christophe Laporte was trade teammate but racing for France, so different country, and then and he was off the front. It looked like he was going to have the win, and then it looked like for sure they were going to catch him, and he started to sprint up next to him, and Laporte had a little bit left extra, so he got first and Walt got second, and certainly he was disappointed, and he expressed disappointment, but also trade teammate, and they'd race well together, and was it them again? Yeah, Laporte get the win and stuff too, and they're obviously good friends as well as teammates and stuff. So he was happy for Christophe Laporte, which is great, but also disappointed that it was like his 13th silver medal at a major championship. So it's gotta be tough. But you're right though, he wasn't brooding over it. It wasn't like because sometimes even when your good friend wins and you don't win, you're like really disappointed, and it affects your whole being and how you present yourself afterwards. But he presented himself afterwards still was like, I'm so happy you won. Really disappointed I didn't win, but I'm really happy you won. And that's more genuine, I think, than like Primož Roglič was saying similar things in the Volta, but it didn't seem as genuine. So but when Walt says it, it just seems like he means it. And you like him a lot for it. So and
sure.
And also too, I mean Matteo too. I mean they go together in lots of ways too. But the way he wins races, where he gives everything and has to collapse as a finish, and you like him about it too. So it's great to have numerous stars in the race that you admire and want to win. Sure. We always haven't had that. Sometimes we've had people that Sean Kelly even says when he was racing, his director told him don't talk to the press, and if you say something to the press, make your answers as short as possible and give nothing away. That's just the training he had. And so when you heard him in the press back in the day, you're like, this guy's stuck up, or I'm not stuck up, but certainly not a friendly kind of guy, or not a guy who's very personable. And now we hear him on the announcing and stuff too, and I love him. He's got this dry sense of humor and this frankness about him, and he's great. But if he would have given that to the press back in the day, he would have for sure been more well liked himself by the public, I think. I mean, he was well liked because of his successes and doing all that kind of stuff too, but as a personality. But this just wasn't the way it was back then, And now people are much more open with things, and we get to see, I think, certainly not 100% what people are like, but more so. And it's fun to have people that you can cheer
for. And the public opinion seems to matter some because of all the backlash that Jumbo-Visma was getting for not supporting Sepp, where
not just from Americans, from all the world.
So but I have to mention Teddy Pogacar too, because I'm still a big fan of Teddy, and he came into Lombardia the weekend before he Primož beat him in one of the races leading up to it, where I think we talked then, you said, or maybe we talked at Gravel Worlds together about how Pogacar said, I'm right where I want to be at that, he wasn't winning then, and sure enough, Lombardia, he was able to ride away. He knew where his form was coming, but I think we may have touched on too how valuable Adam Yates has been to Teddy this year.
All year,
It's a phenomenal year for Adam Yates, and how much his racing and his strength really helped Teddy Pogacar a lot, because UAE Emirates, they've got really stacked good group of riders, but I don't know if they still have quite the same firepower maybe as Jumbo-Visma has had, or they're going to have to have more for the tour for Teddy to be able to get that win again, because I think it was Chris Horner was thinking that they're going to probably send a couple of their strong guys to the Giro, which would take them away from being at the Tour, where the Tour is the most important race, and they won't have.
It's got to be a balancing act.
But
that UAE Emirates ended up with the number one team in the UCI rankings ahead of Jumbo. So Jumbo had more wins, I think.
69 wins.
But then UAE had more podiums, and they had more points.
I just saw the Velo article that broke down all the teams, how many wins they had, and how many were World Tour wins too. And some are surprised, like, they hardly had any World Tour. It seemed like they were winning some, like even Intermarché Wanty Goubert.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, because they started out winning quite a bit at the beginning of the year, but I think they only had like one World Tour win, maybe, or it was.
Yeah. But you get points though, not just at the World Tour, more points for sure. But that's how some of these teams, are surviving, is by sending people to, these races in China at the end of the year and stuff like that. There was actually a lot of big names at the Chinese races just recently. Teams, solidifying points, because this is the first year of the next 3-year cycle. And so they're positioning themselves already to make sure that in 2 more years that they still get to be a World Tour team.
Yeah, teams like Astana Kazakhstan, Azure Citron, they're going to have to do some work in the next couple of years to get the points to keep that World Tour status. So
yeah, and they believe me, I read articles now about all the time, like, Astana's like, this isn't good enough, we need to do more. So that's another good reason why they wanted Cavendish to come back, and they've fortified their sprint team a little bit too, because
Michael Morkwa is coming over to them, right?
I think so, isn't he? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
And then so it's like people are thinking about that, and not as so is Ben O'Connor still with them? He's not moving, is he? So
no, Felix Gall though, he had a really strong year. I think they can count on him probably to do more next year for sure.
Yeah, and they need it. But it's good though, and I read something just recently too that Jumbo-Visma's management, not Jumbo-Visma, but still is, I guess, now until the end of the year, they said that we can't stand pat. We have to get better next year, because if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. That's the old cliche, but it's true. If people are resting on their laurels, it may make it another year or two, and maybe Ineos was doing that a little bit, but they had a great system and they just kept it going, but maybe they needed to evolve a little bit more. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think we didn't think about that before, but Luke Lamperti signed for Soudal Quick-Step, and that I wasn't thinking as much about him when we were talking about the merger, like what's going to happen to him. But now that they're staying the separate team, I think that's good for him.
He just won the Crit National Championship, or Crit Champion, not National Championship, the Crit Championship. That
did he win the one in St. Petersburg?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I saw the lead up to that, and the races they had the Legion had some of the riders from this New York team, including Justin and Luke, but Luke Lamperti was there, and they had a lot of big names.
Sam Snyder won the women's, and then Luke was guest riding for Legion, so Legion won both. Yeah. Okay,
well, he could wear his national championship crit jersey then, right? He almost never gets to wear that.
Yeah, except for
it wasn't a sanctioned event though, right?
Right, wasn't it sanctioned by USA Cycling, so it was insured and and stuff too. But yeah, and because Justin's suspended right now from USA Cycling, so he couldn't actually participate.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the tension there, how that's going. The event he did in Sacramento, it was a $100,000 event last year, the year before.
Yeah,
I think that might have been non-sanctioned too by USA Cycling. Yeah, I think. I didn't, like you said, you didn't even hear about the St. Petersburg. What happened? It wasn't that big of.
No, I was reading about who was going to be there and how it was set up with team names, more like the American sports teams, where there were city names with.
Yeah, so. And that's Justin's. I heard Justin talk about this at the One Love Century. He was on a panel and he talked about there with Brendan Fury and another person from the Miami team. But there, so he's trying to make this different paradigm in which cyclists can exist and make money and have a career and stuff like that too. But he's always rubbed with USA Cycling. I think it's been an issue too. So yeah, it is interesting, and I think definitely, like you just said, having association with teams because they're from a city and that kind of thing too makes sense to a lot of the American public, and so he's trying to tap into that. So I mean,
and they're getting money from both NBA and NFL.
Yeah, with own franchises and stuff too. Yeah. And this race was outside that league, so he's got a league with like 4 race series, and then they had a championship.
It's called Crit. Yeah,
that was separate. I think this one is separate, standalone, but it was some kind of championship event. So, but yeah, I mean, again, the more the better. I mean, the more races there are, if it makes sense, it's even better yet. But I remember like when the old NCL
points based. Yeah. Race. So did Luke Lamperti win the race, or did he?
Oh no, I think this one he was. I think just the winner. I think it wasn't like the other ones. The other ones were like you accumulate points, and they shifted it more. So now the winner gets more points, because before they were able to sit up with 10 laps to go and still win sometimes. But I think Luke and Sam both crossed the line first. It was interesting too that Sam won and Skylar was supporting. I think Skylar was second or third, but supporting Sam. So Sam, still racing a lot, just not at the same level. So.
All right. Well, I know you've got to get going. We're going to hit the hour mark, which typically we end up rambling on and getting to around an hour.
I know one birthday.
Everything.
I didn't.
Oh, birthdays! Wow, it's been so long. I forgot about birthdays. Even.
Lauren Tamayo, though, who's an Asheville resident sometimes, she It's her birthday today. I already wished her happy birthday on,
Happy
on
birthday.
Facebook today.
Yeah.
She's number 7 on the list too.
Really?
So she turns 40 years old this year.
Yeah,
and she's doing
26.
construction now. She's like at a construction company or something like that. So a lot. But I saw her post something recently too, saying that she was having a chance to process some of her race careers and lessons learned, stuff like that, more recently too. And it was nice that she was able to still benefit from her racing now as she thinks more about it. Is that too? So.
All right.
Young guys in the front.
When we were talking about cyclocross, though, I was looking at cyclocross24.com as a resource because we don't always get cyclocross as much. We did talk about is it Velo News for our website, Velo through Outside, but they have a link now on the top for cyclocross. Not a lot of information, but still, I mean, it's a cyclocross, and even Pro Cycling Stats is marking out some cyclocross, like Lars van der Haar. It was yesterday when the Karemko Nacht der Voorden race. So Lars van der Haar, he was in Waterloo too, I believe, and then Fem van Empel won as well that race. So that, I'm finding here on Pro Cycling Stats, but that's where, I mean, you can pull up a lot of information there, but I'm not even seeing the birthday link though on the.
Oh, I saw it. It's on the right hand side down the ways.
Yeah, well, I'm on my phone.
Oh here. Yeah, David Formolo was the top person. So David Formolo, 31 years old is all. So
yeah, he and Taylor are the same.
Raced together, didn't they? Race together. Yeah.
Well, no, he was on the team that Taylor guest raced for, but he wasn't racing at that time. So he got a couple good wins this year, didn't he? Or at least one good win.
He's raced strongly for sure. His top results this year was the Veneto Classic, so he won that.
Right.
And they also won the Coppa Agostoni. So two wins.
Yeah,
this year.
I thought he won a couple times.
Oh, and then he was second in the GC of the Saudi Tour, so early in the year too. So
all right.
He won the stage of the Giro d'Italia. He's been second at Liège.
Italian national champion before too.
Yeah, he's national championship from Italy road race in 2019. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and he's on one of those UAE people that are super strong now.
Yeah.
He's wow, I didn't realize this. He's moving to Movistar next year.
Oh, he's going to Movistar next year. Oh,
he has a 3-year contract with Movistar. Leaving you. So he was on Cannondale and their iterations for a while, then Bora Hansgrohe, UAE for a long time now, since 2018, and now 2024, 25, 26 to Movistar.
All right.
So breaking news for us.
Yeah.
So it's hard to keep track this time too. And then Mattia Catania, who's a current racing, 33 years old. He's from Italy, and what's he had? He's won the Giro dell'Appennino in 2019. He won a stage of the Tour of Poland this year. Won a stage of the Tour of Luxembourg in 2021. Second on a stage of the Tour de France in 2021. Rides for Soudal. So
yeah, I was gonna say he's still with Soudal. Yeah, he's one of their big riders.
Signed through 2025.
Yeah, to support Evenepoel. Sure.
Yeah.
Catania. Sometimes we see on this birthday list, we like to hit it just to see whose birthday was, of course, but sometimes we find out riders who are turning 70, 80, or that raced a long time before we were following the sport, and we kind of learn a little bit about the history of some riders then.
The oldest one on the top of the list here, so Dario in rodeo is 51, but in fourth on the list is Leonardo Natali, and he is Italian, born in Serrano, and he was on Gis Gelati in 1985 was his last year, and before that he rode for Del Tongo Colnago. So, but he was third in the Tour de Suisse in the GC in 81. Third on the stage of Giro d'Italia in 81. Third on stage of the Volta de España in 83. So
getting the podium.
Yeah, he was generally a GC rider, but had a pretty good career. Not super dominant rider, but still pretty decent there.
All right.
And then Lauren, of course, and then the next active ones are Joel Sutter and Alexandre Deletre. So not a huge. See, Stacy Barbosa, 57 years old, from the U.S. Who else do we have? Alexandra Lavelli from Canada, 47. Vanessa McCaffrey, 42 years old, from the U.S. I try and pick out a couple of U.S. people.
Yeah.
No, that's about it.
I kind of had a sad revelation. I don't want to really end the podcast on a sad note, but I was thinking about how I think I'm at the age now where I'm not going to set any more PRs
Well, I think
you trained at a very high level. I felt like I never got up to my maybe potential. I never trained structured enough training to get to as strong as maybe I could have been or as fast as I could have been. But now I'm pretty sure I'm past the point where if I trained super good, I wouldn't be any better than I was before.
Well, so it depends on what you're gonna do. So like I know I'll never be as strong as I was even in my 50s at this point, or but let alone 40s, 30s, 20s, But I can still set, of course, on the downhills. Of course, I'm a pretty good downhiller. I do set some PRs on the downhills sometimes. I still set some KOMs on downhills.
Yeah.
So,
Well, maybe I random
keep my fight, but yeah. As long as I keep my nerve. But yeah, so it depends what you want for a PR. Do you want a PR for like a 40K time trial? Yeah, I mean, my PR is like 53, which isn't all that fast, 53 and a half, but I'll never get there again, but still to set a PR on certain climbs or certain segments.
PR or just power out, but power, I would not even think about PR, but maybe the power outage I could do would.
Well, fortunately, you didn't have power when you were your strongest. So that helped. So, that. So,
all right.
Yeah, again, I think it's hard. Yeah, I mean, as you age, to get your absolute max power, for like 5 minutes or 3 minutes or a minute even, that might be hard to do. But to still set a PR on a segment, like a Strava segment, I think that's totally doable. I mean, not for everyone, but for certain ones,
Well, I always did my best PRs when I picked the day when the wind was blowing the hardest the right way. So.
But that's on flatter roads. Maybe get the hillier ones or something too. I think you can still be really good at any age. So, yeah. So it all depends on what if you're benchmarking yourself against.
Thanks to put a positive spin on that.
If you're benchmarking yourself against your 30-year-old self, that's a hard standard to get. But if you're benchmarking yourself against, your current, then yeah, you can still get a lot better and hopefully enjoy cycling and do well in a way that is meaningful for you.
For sure. All right, Randy. Well, thanks for getting back together, and yeah, we'll try to make it not so long, and try to schedule that Alexi interview. We got to do that. Probably wait till after Iceman cometh, but
yep.
Paul's he had a great year this year, second in the Lifetime Series, some big wins, and
just first American at Big Sugar just last weekend or 2 weekends ago. Yeah. So no, last weekend. So this last weekend.
Last weekend, yeah. All right, and then I don't know. You mentioned there was some track racing. We didn't touch on that.
So actually, it's funny. Real quick, that's already happened. I didn't know the World Series. The UCI Track Championships League. I saw Lily Williams saying she was gonna go back and do it again. I don't see that she did the first weekend, so maybe they don't have to do every weekend.
And where was it?
Mallorca. It was already in Mallorca. So it already happened. Yeah, the first one, and the second one is in Berlin, I think, coming up real soon. So yeah, Berlin on the 28th this weekend. Yeah. So Mallorca, Berlin, then Saint Quin-les-Vins. Is that a French? I should know that better.
Well, track's going to come especially to the forefront next year because in the Olympics, it's
Olympic year. Especially Jennifer Valente has been doing so well, and hopefully she'll still be there. And Lily's doing better too. Lily Williams, who's been better and better in track. She was 4th or 5th last year in the Champion League and is hoping to podium this year in it. So. But we've got a number of good.
Chloe Diger, it's going to be important for her because she'll, try to excel there, but also on the road, she's the world time trial champion again, isn't she?
So is she? Yeah, which was some people were surprised by that. I think that we knew she was capable of it, fully capable of it. But yeah, if she's at her best again on the track, then that certainly helps our team pursuit to have a chance to be the best at that too. So yeah, I think tracks. It'll be more in the public eye this next year.
All right, Randy. We'll catch you again soon.
All right, thanks, team.
All right, bye.